So welcome. I just watched Jimmy Dore do a show on. So welcome. I just watched Jimmy Dore do a show on allegedly Whole Foods is selling rubbered fruit. Avocado looks like there's a woman, and I think it's gone viral. There's a couple of videos on that where they're peeling a banana. Multiple people have done this. They're peeling a banana, and when they get the banana out of the casing, the skin, it's like bending rubber. I'm not joking. And you have to literally tear it apart. Tear a fucking banana apart. Are you kidding me? And the avocado, it literally, you can put your thumb into it. It won't even break. We can thank Bill Gates for that bullshit. I think I'm going to talk about food. The fueling of food. There was a British man. There's so much to talk about because many Americans are depleted of minerals and we don't realize it. Permaculture is a real thing that you want to look at. I'll give you an example. When we planted our food, we didn't actually till the soil. Not really. We tried to just put holes and then plant seedlings directly in the soil with grass around it. So we cut the grass down and then we just planted directly into the, I'm not kidding. So to try to get as much of the topsoil benefits as possible. So that's just on the side note. Sorry, I just had tea, and I always do that when I have tea. So Jimmy Dore did a show, you may want to look it up, which my son sent me, on rubber fruit and Whole Foods. Allegedly, just allegedly, because, we don't want to get sued over these fucks. But about, how he has that silly fucking grin. And my mind is traveling so fast, I need to catch up. Hang on. And I'm going to start with the infant formula because that's been trending with starving kids. But we're not going to be talking about what you think. Back in India, Nestle started to allegedly, happy guys, happy? Allegedly, Nestle, I saw the show on that. This was about 20 years ago. I kid you not. I think it was like 23 years ago, where Nestle went into India pushing formula, baby formula, and on women who were poor, and they mixed the baby formula because they didn't know, because they don't know, they weren't educated. They mixed the baby formula with the common water, which is the water they had, whatever that is, and babies were dying at formula with the common water, which is the water they had, whatever that is, and babies were dying at levels that was unheard of. Babies were dying of dysentery, of amoebas. You understand? Horrible deaths. They had taken away the one gift that any poor woman, providing she has somewhat levels of nutrition, the ability to breastfeed her baby, the best fucking nectar of healing that gives her, the baby, the best levels of immunities in the planet, breast milk to the child. They had taken that away and given them, baby formula. This was Nestle. Under Bill Gates' bullshit, just so you know. Oh, poor Bill Gates. Bill Gates, he's finally going to be called out again, once again, on all his fuckery from the vax. Suddenly he's an expert on everything. And about 450,000 kids died. Babies. They did the same with vax. Same type of bullshit fuckery in Africa, in parts of Africa. And autism fucking exploded. Because of the contamination. I could go on, but I'm not going to. Because the most important thing that we need to realize as Americans, as you're going through your meditations, chakra healing, your cellular system is not being fed. The reason why we have obesity in this country, and the reason why I struggle losing weight, just so you know, and I do, is because to eat the shit they give us, and we need is because to eat the shit they give us, and we need to do milkshakes. And I remember having to work out, I'm not joking, an hour a day lifting weights, an hour a day in cardio, and still hiking and boxing. So I was averaging 2 to 2.5 hours a day, 5 to 6 days a week. By the way, the power walking was 7 days a week, rain or shine. To maintain, to build muscle and to maintain, I was on a strict vegan diet, which was strict not that strict because I was still eating honey. So it's not, because when you're vegan, you only do maple syrup. But that's another show. And that's what I had to do. And the calorie intake was probably $1,800 calories, maybe 2,000 calories per day. And that was it. We're not talking about how multiple women, young women have reported, and older women have reported going to Europe and dropping 80 pounds, 62 to 80 pounds in 1 year, doing absolutely fucking nothing, eating actually more, and losing weight. Now, recently, I saw an ad in TikTok of a British man who had just moved to America, and he starts out with saying, and I can't find the ad to save my life. I wonder if they pulled it, because what he said, he was selling minerals. He was selling a powdered type of concoction that would provide you the minerals we're never going to get here. So he was saying, everything, we love America, this and that. And we came and we started feeling exhausted, like depleted, exhausted, migraines. And we realized that the food that we were eating here wasn't nourishing us. And so so we love America, he kept saying. And he was pitching this concoction, this powdered protein something supplement with lots and lots of minerals that we don't have. And the minute they started taking it, they were back in business, feeling vibrant, energetic, and powerful. That's why many of us take Shilajit. I'm not pushing it. By the way, I'm not selling anything today. I will eventually again, but I got this probiotic. I'll probably, because I really love it, and it's a pre-probiotic, which is important. I'll probably advertise that today or tomorrow, but it's on the side note. But my point to you is that I used to go to Whole Foods. I used to drive 1 fucking hour, or in where I live, upstate, and go out of my way to buy, because while my beloved was in a hospital, I'd gone to Walmart. I detest Walmart. Like Walmart to me is like nails on a chalkboard, vibrationally, the lighting, the fantastic employees that are on food stamps, shit like that. Like that irks me. Like you have no idea. Like the fact that $1 billion fucking company is allowed to trifle with governmental funds because they won't pay their employee. Company is allowed to trifle with governmental funds because they won't pay their employees a living fucking wage. That's another show. But anyway, I'll never forget buying a red pepper and a green pepper and cooking the fuck out of it, and it never tenderized. You know how a green pepper eventually, or a red pepper, after you saute it, whatever, in olive oil or whatever you do, whether you put it in the stove, like the flames to kind of like char it or whatever, that eventually what happens, or whatever you do, whether you put it in the stove, like the flames to kind of like char it or whatever, that eventually what happens, it softens, it cooks. It never fucking cooked. I was like, my mind last year wasn't on nutrition on that level, except for my beloved. But so I was out of nowhere. I was talking because I brought him some lentil guacamole, and other things, because of hospital food. That's another nutritional joke. Hospital and food. Hospital food should be the best shit while you're fucking healing from God knows what, right? But it's not. It's the worst shit. The highest sodiums. But on the side note, they even have McDonald's in hospital. Can you imagine having a Dunkin' Donuts or a McDonald's in your hospital? not a vegetarian or high organic nutritional, probably Middle Eastern. I'm going to say Middle Eastern because it's been reputed to be the best food on the planet that you can eat. The hummus, the this, the that. It's heavy in protein and so forth, and heavy in olive oils and beautiful nutritional shit like tabbouleh and stuff like that, right? No, they don't have that in the fucking hospital. They have McDonald's. Food that you can put in your cover for 20 years and it'll still look intact. That's what they're giving to the hospital, their staff, and patients if they're just totally disgusted by the hospital food. But anyway, I digress. So the nurse, a Caribbean nurse, and I were chatting, and out of nowhere came the green pepper thing. I was like, yeah, I'm like, I'm not going there. I have to drive all the way to fucking Whole Foods to get blah, blah, blah. And she was like, you know what? I had the same problem. I went, wait, hang on, what? She goes, yeah, I bought peppers from Walmart, and it would not fucking cook. It would not cook at all. So I was like, this is insane. So yeah, plastic, and it's totally legal. I've even seen them making lettuce leaves. What they do is they pour this greenish liquid in water, which looks see-through like lettuce, and then they just create lettuce heads. Like I'm not joking. You can look it up, I'm sure. So food. So one of the comments that I read on Jimmy Dore, which blew my mind, it was a mic drop moment. It said, the carbon they're trying to get rid of is us. Boom. I was like, things that I see drives me to alive to share with you. Again, I'm going to repeat it because it was mic drop. The carbon they're trying to get rid of is us. That was it. Bill Gates is a criminal, allegedly. He has been in the business of poisoning us. He has had Freudian slips. His wife didn't just leave him because of the E-files. She left him because the man is pure evil, and even she couldn't fucking swallow that shit anymore. In a few lives that I've done, which you can check out on YouTube, I've talked to you guys again and again, and really, again, I need to really have the masculines realize this. The billionaires have to exist. And they can only exist under this system of oppression. Their billions will mean nothing. It will literally collapse into nothing. It'll be like the Confederate flag. I mean, the Confederate dollar. No, that was a Freudian slip. The Confederate dollar, which you could wipe your ass off after the war. So when the system collapses, which, by the way, crypto has been insidiously populated with these poisonous effers. Crypto used to be a hopeful place where you could find some kind of liberty of movement. Some people call it money laundering, but that's not always the case, just so you know. I'm a big fan of crypto, and but crypto promised an equitable opportunity for everyone to have some abundance and freedom. I mean, think about it. You could actually cross borders with 120, have some abundance and freedom. I mean, think about it. You could actually cross borders with $120 million in your back pocket on your phone. You could go anywhere in the world and have $100,000 in crypto. And I know people who have made a shitload of money in crypto, shitload. Some of them were buying Bitcoin back in 2006, 2007. They were smart. And those coins, one coin today is about $114,000. Today, 19 years later, 18 years later. So, but I think, and I've said this again and again, that a new system of economy has to be created in place of what we have, because as long as this particular infrastructure exists, these weak-chinned, weak-jawed, weak fucking men, mostly men who are billionaires, are going to basically drive this planet into the ground. They don't give one fuck. Evil doesn't think 8 steps ahead. It doesn't even think of 20 steps ahead. People like Bill Gates don't give one fuck about his children's future. This is not a selling point. Oh, what about your kids? Don't you want them to have a planet that's healthy? He doesn't give a fuck. He doesn't live for his kids. See, you and I can relate to that. You and I live for our kids, our grandchildren, and the great-grandchildren. We live for the future of others. We plant trees, fruit trees, for a future we'll never see. But we do it because we have the heart and soul of gentle, loving, generous people. And we want to leave the planet behind better than when we saw it, when we came into it. These motherfuckers are just pure evil. They're destructive, they're greedy, and they only want what they want for themselves. They don't care about anyone else. And so, with the studies of autism and the blood-brain barrier of what can go into your brain, what is basically the ability for plastics, microplastics to come into your brain, the ability to now understand, and this came from a lot of problems with autistic kids had what they call leaky guts. And no matter what you think about vax, I can tell you from my own experience that the first year I was born, I had about 9 vax, one of them being the yellow fever vac to go to Africa. 9. First year, 9. Not fucking 36, not 36. And I'm going to minimize it to 36. The first year of a child is 36. It's not normal. It's not going to help anything. So it's created leaky gut. And leaky gut, between leaky gut and having to use all kinds of different supplements to feed the gut, because the gut-brain connection has been mapped out, which began with autism and the study of it. That's when they realized, oh shit, leaky gut, the brain can't function. And in my journey of doing research on, I'm no expert on nutrition, don't get me wrong, but in terms of supplements that needed to be added to, say, a basic child's foundational beginnings, such as omega-3, 6, and 9 by Udo's, UDO''S, and mixing it for my child with maple syrup on gluten-free pancakes, because the bread that we eat today, I can't tell you how badly I want a fucking slice of toasted bread. How badly. But I can't. Because the bread they call badly, I want a fucking slice of toasted bread. How badly. But I can't. Because the bread they call bread in this country is actually illegal in Europe. It's illegal because it's not bread. So what's happened because of this, because there's, if you walk into a supermarket, you'll see loads and loads and loads of fucking shit bread. Shit. Some of it, in fact, there was a guy last year who had been ordering bread from this company for fucking years. They would have like 12 loaves of bread sent to them on automatic subscription every 2 months or whatever. So one day he got his shipment. I'll never forget this, because he actually showed and documented how he took one slice of bread and started washing his dishes with it, never fell apart. Washed the toilet bowl with it, never fell apart. He used it for something like, I believe, a whole week. It never fell apart. Never. It was like a sponge. Literally, one of those those sponges that are micro sponges, and you fill it up with water and it explodes into 100 times its size, that kind of thing. It looked like that. And I saw that. I think it was last year or 2 years ago, 2023. I think it might have been 2023 when I saw that. And I was like, so all these breads, when Wonder Bread was out, I don't know if you remember Wonder Bread. Wonder Bread was just flour, water, some salt, butter, and maybe eggs. That was all it had. It was just basic ingredients. Today, mass-produced bread is got shit you can't pronounce, shit you don't even know, and they're able to overcome your, if you have a radar for corn syrup, all they have to do is call it natural sweetener, and it's illegal to call it corn syrup, natural sweetener. So now you're getting corn syrup. Bakeries, even mom pop bakeries, are using corn syrup. Why, I don't know, knowing what we know. I remember back in 2005 watching a quick video in my son's Montessori school, believe it or not, on corn syrup. So in France, they've done a study on not corn syrup, on corn, GMO corn. And in 9 months of feeding the rats, but in particular this particular rat, just corn, GMO corn, it had a tumor the size of the entire body of the rat. Corn. I love corn. Fucking love corn. But corn has been completely bastardized. There was a case where some farmers in Canada, there was a whole documentary on that with soybean and corn, where this farmer was raising organic corn. Now, as you probably know, corn pollinates. It can travel miles, right? In pollination through bees, through the wind, through whatever, right? So, and then his corn was polluted by GMO corn. There's also pharmaceutical corn. I don't know if you knew that. I didn't know that either. And his corn was contaminated, and the balls of the company who was growing this GMO shit was ended up suing him. I think he might have even lost his farm because of the infringement of their patent. Do you understand what they did? They criminalized a farmer because the winds pollinated and his corn patent. Do you understand what they did? They criminalized a farmer because the winds pollinated and his corn was destroyed. He couldn't even sell it. It destroyed his corn. It was contaminated, and even the soil was contaminated now. He couldn't fucking farm organic corn anymore. And that happened to another farmer on soybeans. Same thing. Same exact thing. When I first saw the beginnings of GMO, I'll never forget, I'm living in San Francisco. I think it's about 1989. I'm in my early 20s. And the father of my son and I are watching PBS. PBS, good old PBS. And they're talking about the beginnings of GMO. And they're talking about making a tomato really, really red. Imagine, for us, this is like talking out of space shit. And just think about our points of view as young people. We're sitting there watching something. We're looking at each other incredulously going, please, they can't be fucking serious. Where they would be taking the genetics of a mosquito to make the tomato redder. To make the tomato redder and juicier. Meanwhile, same year, thereabouts, I'm looking at older people who are now my age, but in 1989, 1988, who are the caretakers of heirloom seeds in little onion skin packets and writing letters to each other, snail mail, because that's what we had in those days, and sending each other seeds all over Canada and America, trying to maintain and protect heirloom crops, heirloom seeds, heirloom tomatoes, heirloom corn, all kinds of stuff, right? And when we saw this video, it was a whole video on GMO, cucumber, eggplant, but it was and both of us were vegetarians, and we're looking at each other going, how the fuck is it, how in the hell am I going to eat a tomato if now it has the genetics of a fucking mosquito? And we're looking at each other going, how the fuck is it, how in the hell am I going to eat a tomato if now it has the genetics of a fucking mosquito? Or a butterfly? Or a pig? I'm no longer a vegetarian now, because now I'm eating something that has the DNA markers of a fucking insect or a farm animal. What the hell am I doing here? And the nature of life and the infrastructure of the system that we've lived in for so many fucking hundreds of years since the Industrial Revolution, to take note, we didn't have time to protest. We didn't think that this would ever happen. And most of us, I don't know why people think this is new, most of us were working 6 days a week, 12-hour days in the 80s. Most, and again, I'm going to repeat myself, most of my friends could not afford their own apartment, even then. They all lived 5 people to a house. The only difference is the house was $1,200 a month, the whole entire house, as opposed to what it would cost today, probably $3,600. And people that in that time were making $4.75 an hour. Do you understand? So relatively, it was the same shit as today. Nothing's changed, except now we had homeless people then, except now we have of homeless people. Mental health is in crisis. In the 80s, we go to the Golden Gate Park in San Francisco to play racquetball, and inevitably we come across someone who had been released, Reagan era, released into, out of these mental hospitals, into the public, who were dangerous. That's why I first learned, this was he was my fiance at the time. I remember some crazy ass fuck coming at us, and he says, he's not crazy. And I went, what do you mean? He says, watch. And then he started, because my husband, fiance at the time, was like 6'2" and pretty powerful, about 240 pounds of massive muscle, walked towards him and yelling back at him. And the guy, I'm sorry, man. And he turned, and my man turned to me and said, I told you he wasn't crazy. Because if he was really crazy, he wouldn't give a fuck. He wouldn't be afraid of me. So that's when he taught me about how some people act crazy to take advantage of you or to frighten you or what have you. But anyway, I digress. There were a lot of homeless people that had mental health issues that had been cold turkeyed off their meds, which is very dangerous, as you know. But at the time, nutrition was still available. Food was still pure. Sourdough bread was left out in the air to grab the sea spray of the ocean of San Francisco, and that's why sourdough bread, which is good for your gut, was so famous from San Francisco, because they did something where they literally let the bread rise, and all the enzymes and all of that goodness and sea spray and brine would hit the bread and do something magical. This is when food was cheap. I remember getting, I don't know, like 5-6 bags of vegetables at my local Korean market for $25. Good luck in trying that today. And being well fed with really nutritious things. And then came these fucking pseudoscientists, these fucks that with their PhDs who never thought, see, this is the problem with scientists and people who think that they know, and people like, not me, because I've never respected people on that because they have a degree. I don't, okay? I respect people because they're smart, not because they have a degree. If you have a degree and you're smart, like Andromeda Flame has a degree and she's smart, incredibly brilliant woman, I respect her because she's brilliant. And she's taken her education and she uses it for the right things. And she knows what she's talking about. Do you understand? And she's taken her education and she uses it for the right things. And she knows what she's talking about. Do you understand? But just because you have a PhD, because look at how they ran this fucking planet to the ground. At least America. And so food has become suspect. Do you understand? Many of us, the fact that we have now celiac disease all over the country is insane. Now, here's what I've noticed. I've been watching Americans moving to all parts of Europe, Asia, some parts of Africa, and they all report back, I had celiac disease. I had dairy intolerance. And I'm eating bread and I'm having absolutely no problems. That should tell you something. My son's developed serious celiac disease. Serious. And I'm still able to eat some of it, meaning pasta, for example. Rice, it's legal to actually sell plastic rice. Pasta, for example, rice, it's legal to actually sell plastic rice. Legal. And so, as you meditate, as you work on yourself, yet you're not getting nutrition and you're feeling fatigued and you're feeling as if you're developing inflammations all over your body, I want you to really invest in finding a good company that puts out Shilajit. There's a great company that puts out, it's a company called Dr. Schultz. It's Dr. Doctor, and then Schultz, SCHULZE. And they have a superfood drink that you mix with apple juice. And it's all dehydrated organic vegetables. I've been using it since 2005. I use it sparingly because it's fucking expensive, very expensive. When he couldn't package it in glass anymore, he now packages it in a carton box cylinder because he's that serious about his nutrition. He has a store in Marina del Rey, by the way, which I've gone to, and it will give you a fucking boost. You will feel like your whole consciousness has lifted. I'm not kidding. Also, you want to, and I hate saying that because of what happens in how they grow almonds here in America, and how they use such pesticides that when they release the bees to pollinate the trees, they die. Roundup is still sold in every major and minor mom and pop hardware in most of the places in this country. And we know that Roundup has been, it's illegal in massive parts of Europe. I can't speak to all of Europe, but I know for a fact it is illegal. And I remember in 2005, when about 500,000 bees died within 48 hours along the Rhine River in Germany. And they were like, what the fuck just happened here? And it turned out it was pesticides that are now illegal there. They realized what had killed the bees. We cannot survive without bees. They have been a symbol that you will see from Egypt all the way to today. Napoleon had used the bee as a symbol because people had enough brains to realize how important they are to the system. Whoever had lived in this house before me had poisoned this land with traps. I mentioned that before, and poisons and probably pesticides up the ass. Last year, 20 bees at most. And I was concerned. I mean, obviously. And not only did we sage the land, I kid you not, and drummed it into power, but we left the land alone, meaning we didn't use any traps, any pesticides. And as I said a few days, I think I did a live on that, I mentioned that the hawks and the bald eagles came back. They started growing, they started grabbing, we'd see them catching bats in midair at night, the owls, and we saw them grabbing rats on the ground. And we lost some chickens due to predators, which we left alone. We figured the price around. And we lost some chickens due to predators, which we left alone. We figured the price, we are caretakers here. We're not here to subjugate the land or kill the animals. And so we made sure to protect our chickens better. But guess what happened? The bees came back. And plants and flowers I'd never seen, because the bees came back, because I was like, wait, hang on. I never saw these flowers last year. What's going on? And the confirmation was that the pollination of the bees had scattered pollen and seeds so that suddenly what had been, in my opinion, arid grew. And we had asters everywhere, mullein growing up the ass, We had an amazing crop of tomatoes, like a banger crop. But what happened was the zucchinis, the cucumbers were failing. I spoke to a friend in Norway who also was having problems with her crops. I looked on Facebook of people who had been, homesteading, little farmers, growing their own little tiny crops for their families for like 30, 40 years, who said they were having problems growing certain crops. So something had been happening. Something was falling from the sky. Something, right? Some kind of contamination that was even affecting all the way into Norway, for example. She'd had no problems the year before. Neither did I. The year before, my zucchinis were insane. I couldn't keep up. I fed them to my chickens. I had so many. So there is something going on. And even though many of us are buying seeds from private Etsy purveyors, you know what I mean? The old people from the 80s who were caring for these ancient heirloom seeds, ancient types of tomatoes, breeds of tomatoes, and all kinds of types of zucchinis and things of that nature, they're gone. And God knows what happened. Maybe their families threw away their boxes of seeds, not knowing what they had just thrown out was gold. Fucking ancient seeds we cannot, replicate. We can't. And it's against the law to say, because I'm my uncle in France, and I was saying, can you send me some seeds? Because I fucking don't try, because I know if it says non-GMO in fucking France, it's fucking non-GMO, I can tell you that. There are laws. The French are a pain in the fucking ass with laws. Like, I'll give you an example. If it's not from Champagne, you can't call it Champagne. If it's not from Dijon, you can't call that mustard Dijon. They are very strict on their pain. You can't call it Champagne. If it's not from Dijon, you can't call that mustard Dijon. They are very strict on their rules and laws to govern food and quality of food. That includes non-GMO labels. And by the way, GMO is not allowed. So there you go. So I knew that the seeds would be fucking stellar. He bought them. Went to the post office, illegal to mail me seeds. He called me back saying, I can't mail them. It's illegal. I will be fine. You will be fucked. I was like, okay, well, fuck. Which I find interesting because Italy has ancient tomatoes, an ancient strain of tomatoes. There's a famous one called Manzoni, which everyone wants, but they have other strains I will never see in this country unless we open our doors to best practices. And best practices, the Europeans have been growing foods for centuries. They are the experts. Tomatoes coming from Peru, right? Of course, we know. I hope you know this. Potatoes coming from Peru, right? You would think that at the very least, we could get seeds from Peru, right? No, we can't. So it's almost like they want to contain us and give us only the choices that are available. One of the things a lot of us are doing, and I'm not really baking bread, but I think I'm going to try, is you can get organic flour. We're hoping they're honest, because it could be that they're printing bags that say made in France or made in Italy, ground in Italy. But supposedly you can get flour from Italy or flour from France. I would honestly, my first choice would be French. Again, non-GMO. It's Italy, no offense. I lived in Rome, and God bless you guys in Italy, but you know how the system is kind of a little whacked, okay? There's a lot of weird shit going on there. It always has been. So I would say get your flour from Switzerland, France, whatever. Those two countries is pretty solid. I can't speak for other countries. I don't know. It doesn't mean there aren't other countries to look at, but those are the two countries. And at that point, you're getting real flour where you can make your own bread. And I would get starters and yeast from other countries. That's how bad the shit is. And when I speak to my friends in Europe, Norway, France, and England. They're in shock. They're in absolute shock. They can't even wrap their head around the fact that nutrition is in shock. They're in absolute shock. They can't even wrap their head around the fact that nutrition, to find nutrition, is like your body is starving. We're eating shit, and we're eating food that is empty of nutrition. One of the things I used to buy a lot, it's called Artisan. Hang on, what is it called? Artisana. I'm just letting you know. Artisana raw almond butter. I'm ashamed to say I'm eating almond butter because of what I know, how it's grown. But I need it for the nutrition. And I would say try to get like 1 or 2 tablespoons of that per day. It's like gold. It's not cheap, but should last you probably 2 to 3 weeks. Get Shilajit and take a small amount on your pinky, 2 to 3 weeks. Get Shilajit and take a small amount on your pinky and just put it directly to your tongue so it explodes through your bloodstream. Get a lot of fresh air. Get as much sun as you can. Sun is a healer. Put your yoni or lingam to the sun 15 minutes a day if you can. It will recharge you. It's like recharging the battery, the sun being the battery, right? I mean, you being the battery, the sun being the charger. And it's so healing. Also for men, it increases your testosterone naturally. I kid you not, this is known. I would say pranayama. We have breatharians, people who don't eat, who actually are breatharians. So it is a change of mindset to get nutrition from oxygen. I mean, oxygen is a great healer. That's why what they did to us during COVID when they had us wearing little masks, especially those little blue masks. These little blue masks that had microfibers in them. The mayor of Nevada City at the time in California, I spoke to her. And I remember her talking about the mayor of Nevada City at the time in California, I spoke to her. And I remember her talking about these masks, saying because she was the only mayor who was allowing people not to wear masks. It was a choice. You want to wear it, okay. If you don't, that's fine. She was a professional painter. She painted houses, and she masks. So she was talking about that. My friend who had just gone through massive surgery, stage 4 throat cancer, had gone into the hyperbaric chambers, which is it's an explosion of oxygen. Oxygen is the most important thing you can, and to actually prevent us from actually breathing, was insane. And I'm not going to talk about some of you who lost or know of people who died of the COVID, D. But what I will say is that people die of pneumonia every year at the tune of, I think, a 500,000 or more a year. Even Gérard Depardieu's son, before there was ever a COVID, I don't know if you know his name is Guillaume Depardieu, died of pneumonia at the age of 37. People die of pneumonia. It's a serious fucking condition. It's serious. My mother almost died of it 3-4 times. And her lungs were shot and scarred. And she still lived till she was 84 and died at that point from lung disease, from all of the onslaught of these of having double pneumonia constantly. Okay, so it does kill. There's no doubt. But if you watch what was happening, there's no doubt. But if you watch what was happening during the lockdown, it was it destroyed our economy. It destroyed people's very living. It destroyed people's lives, and most of the people homeless today are homeless because of what happened. Millions of people. And my question to you, when you think about the lockdown, how many people died of that disease as opposed to how many people whose lives were destroyed? Not politically correct, is it? But you know what? For us to get to a place of sober realization, we need to be absolutely politically incorrect and dismantle what was sold to us. And Bill Gates was the poster child of that age, of that time, of that movement, with his little grimace, his little grin, his little Freudian slip, his little projects. So the reason why we have obesity in America, and when I mean obesity, we're talking about unhinged women who are 300, 400, 500 pounds, men who are 300, 400, 500 pounds. I'm not kidding. The average person is about 320 pounds. Or we have people who can't gain weight, which is also not healthy. People who have to take certain special protein drinks and shit like that, even though they eat, and they eat. And it goes right through them. So something is out of whack. Because when you look at photos of the 70s, all over America, to be overweight was an anomaly. And I'm not putting anyone down who chooses to be overweight. This is not the life for you. Like, okay, I'm not going to be politically correct. I'm sorry. I'm not going to, like, soothe people's fucking... I have weight to lose. And I can tell you it's affecting my power. So if I'm telling you this, I'm not telling you to shame anyone who's obese. But ultimately, part of the reason a lot of people are obese, that's why they're taking Ozempic, is because there's no nutrition in the food. And so there's a sense, it's not just emotional eating, it's boredom, okay? But also it's looking for it's like the body is starving. And so you'll have, looking for it's like the body is starving. And so you'll have, you'll want chocolate, or you'll want bread, you'll want carbs, and you'll live on carbs. All you want is carbs. And you're not getting protein. And to get a person to eat protein like 150 grams a day or something insane like that, that's what they talk about if you want to really get in shape. That's near fucking impossible. You'd have to be a carnivore. And you've got people becoming, literally, there's a Chinese chick in YouTube who's like pushing eating raw butter and just meat. Okay, what's the guy who was Peter? What was his name? I forgot his name. He was all over the internet. Then he had nervous breakdown, blah, blah, blah. And he was very proud to say that he just ate a steak a day. Well, eventually he fucking collapsed, because that's not how the body works. We are not actually built to be carnivores. We're built, if you really look at, caveman diet. Yeah, the caveman diet, they ate mostly berries, fruits, and roots, and leaves, and herbs, and meat was whatever they... Okay, most of them didn't eat for a day or two, so there was fasting was normal. That was a normal thing, to fast. Not because you wanted to, because you're going to... Until you actually hunted down a boar, a deer, whatever, you weren't going to eat. So they grazed as they hunted. They would chew on leaves, whatever they found, berries, whatever, so they were grazing. And, but they were always in action. They were always moving. Their bodies were always moving, obviously. There was always something to do, whether you were weaving baskets, tanning hide, sewing garment together, tunics, loincloth, whatever, right? There was always something, making tools, always something to do, always busy, always active. And so that's one of the reasons why we are not fit, but also, to be honest, the motivation, the habit of getting in shape is a whole rewiring of the brain. And when you go to Europe, I'm just going to say it, when you go to Europe and you go to a supermarket or a patisserie, a bakery, the levels of goodies you can have, like the baked goods, are so beautiful, and so, like, to have an eclair and a strawberry pastry, and that's what you're going to have And it's so fulfilling and it's so delicious and so perfect that you don't need to do it every day. You don't need a sugar every day. You probably have it maybe, but even if you had it every day, the irony is you're not going to get fat from it at all, because everything that was created is real food. You know, I remember growing up and we had the boiled egg, the toast, or just the toast with the tea. Then we would have lunch. Usually it would be fish or brown rice and lettuce, a salad. Then at 4 o'clock, we'd go out for tea, and tea was 2 pastries and tea. And then we would have dinner at 6 or 7, and we were all slim. All of us. So what happened? Something's happening to our food. And the more you are looking for nutrition, the more you eat. You understand? The more you're looking for nutrition, the more you eat. You're not satisfied. And so people are coming up with all kinds of ideas. Eat sardines in olive oil, obviously, not in seed oil, but olive oil. And then you can't trust olive oil because it could be mixed with seed oil. It's just the fuckery never ends. So if you're lucky to have Azure, Azure, which is in the West Coast, you can actually order things that you pretty much know are going to be real. If you're even luckier than that, that's pretty lucky, by the way, Azure. But they'll go in a parking lot and deliver your box, and you could be ordering like I don't know, 12 pounds of apples that are really fucking real apples from literally orchards up in Washington State. You can have real potatoes, and you know they're potatoes. Might be hard to get avocados, but you're getting, if you're a meat eater, you can get meat that is from local farmers who have a small ranch, and you're eating dense, nutritious food. Well, why? Well, because it's actually real food. So Azure is what I recommend. I used to use as nutritious food. Well, why? Well, because it's actually real food. So Azure is what I recommend. I used to use Azure back in 2003, 4, 5, 6, 7. And the other one is, the only other way for you to get what you need. Like I bought Pink Ladies. I think it's 12 pounds for $12. And they're actually from real orchards. They're actually real apples. They're not plastic. They're not manufactured. And this is a real concern. It's actually happening. I never thought we'd be sitting here together and me telling you this shit from when I was a young woman looking at this PBS going, there's no way they can't let this happen. They can't let this happen. I remember crying. And my husband, my fiancé at the time, saying, he says, we got to get rich. I'll never forget him. We got to get rich. We got to fucking get the fuck out of here. He says, we got to get rich. I'll never forget him. We got to get rich. We got to fucking get the fuck out of here. You see how men think? Men are wonderful. Because for men, money is freedom. For many men, it's not a Ferrari. It's not a Carrera Porsche. It isn't. It's freedom. It's freedom not to be under the subjugation of a system that is clearly here to violate us at every step. You see what I mean? So that's where we're at. And that's not paranoia. The fact is, if you went to my kitchen and fucking tinctures, supplements, herb teas, shit like, you'd be like, fucking tinctures, supplements, herb teas, shit like, you'd be like, I must have 50 fucking bottles. I never had that when I was a kid in my 20s. I didn't even take once. No, the only supplement I used to take, the only one, was green algae from Japan. That was it. Spirulina. That was it. Because it gave me that boost because I was working 6 days a week, 12-hour days on my feet. Because again, we were all doing it. So this concept of working your ass off to keep you to shut your mouth because you're too fucking tired to rebel is a real thing. And what I love about this generation of kids that people call lazy, that I call smart, is that they won't fucking drink the Kool-Aid. The energy of the 80s and 90s was an energy that was selling us that for you to be any success, you had to become a multimillionaire. And we were all trying to figure out how to hack the system, not knowing that the system was as rigged as a casino. They'll let you win a little bit, but you'll never be one of them. Not knowing that the system was as rigged as a casino. They'll let you win a little bit, but you'll never be one of them. You'll never be the casino owner. How's that? You will never be a partner of the casino owner. They'll give you $500 for every 1,000 you've lost. See what I mean? It's rigged. And that's exactly what we didn't know that we know now. And I could go more into how well I know that, but it's kind of illegal, I would say. But let me just say this. Most of the system has now used food, knowing what we know from how the brain needs to be balanced and to be able to think and to be able to focus. This is why meditation is so important. But it knows that to fuck with you is to fuck with your gut. And to fuck with your gut fucks with your head. And it fucks if you get fucked in the head, meaning you can't focus, you got ADHD, you know, we all do at this point, from social media, but also from lack of nutrition. They fuck with your ascension. So from sex and fucking with you, I did a whole thing on sex yesterday, and I've done a few videos. I also did the fact that sadly, women will be the ones who actually bring the new age into full stop. Lights on. We're going to be turning all the lights on to the Ascension movement. But women, and I've said this before, women have always been the instigators, the catalyst of change. In the French Revolution, it was women who started it all because they were seeing their kids die of what? Starvation. Forced famine. Okay? Because all the money was being sent to the Americas for the American Revolution. So they were poor in France. They were broke. So nutrition, as we know, engineered famine has always been used to oppress people. So that's why you need to learn how to I'm going to tell you something. I remember getting a whiskey barrel where I lived. I had a little cottage, not enough land to grow shit, okay? But I had a whiskey barrel. And in it, I grew tomatoes and corn at the time. Again, 2005. And I would highly recommend that if you have a little space to grow food. The Cubans have mastered growing food in their apartments in these containing baskets that they hang from their ceiling. That's where, you know how you see these tomatoes growing out of these holes? I don't know if you've noticed that, where it's like a big container and there's all these holes in it and the tomatoes spill out of that. Yeah, that's from the Cubans. They actually invented that shit to grow aerially their food. So they would grow zucchinis and tomatoes hanging on these type of containers, okay? The Cubans. And then on the ground, they would grow whatever else. And whatever else they needed, they could actually get, like eggs, onions, things of that nature. You get what I'm saying? Potatoes, root vegetables they would get from local people. Maybe even barter tomatoes for whatever. So my point is, you can do it and you should do it. Get into the habit of growing your own herbs and try to get yourself into growing medicinal herbs, ashwagandha, if you can. Well, definitely mints for your stomach. A troubled stomach is mint. We know this. Rosemary, sage. I grew some sage. Stomach is mint. We know this. Rosemary, sage. I grew some sage. I'm going to make a sage tea. Sage tea is amazing. Mix it with mint. It's amazing for you. And And I would say that I'm starting to finally get serious about my own health, my own ability to, change and transform my cells. Pretty much every 90 days, every 30 days, but every 90 days you can change habit, behavior, and your cellular system. And what you think becomes true. And grief, depression, loss, exhaustion of the system is going to make it harder because you're sinking into a state of apathy. I totally understand that. I'm just coming out of these kinds of understandings myself and realizing that apathy, I totally understand that. I'm just coming out of these kinds of understandings myself and realizing that beating yourself up isn't going to help you, but looking in the mirror, like literally saying to yourself, look, I'm going to be here for God knows how many more years, right? And it doesn't matter if you're 20 or 50 or 70. You got to make sure that the time you're here, this is a specific message for starseeds, and you know who you are. As long as you're here, you got to do the best you fucking can to tear the fucking system down. And Albert Camus said it best. Your very existence is an act of rebellion. Your very existence is an act of rebellion. So us being on couches, watching Netflix, exhausted, I'm not putting you down, trust me, is something that we need to shake the cobwebs out of our heads and seek nutrition as opposed to the nectar of taste, because honestly, half the shit on the shelves of this country's stores is shit. It's shit. Make your own flatbread. Buy flour from other countries if you really need bread. Buy organic. All root vegetables should be organic and non-GMO. It should say it. They call Nancy's organic and it says non-GMO. She's not mandated to say a fucking thing, but they say it. I know how hard it is to cook sometimes. And so you think you're getting Amy's and it's processed food and you think you're doing well by yourself. Don't eat processed food. Eat lentil, get it. Get yourself some dried lentil and soak it. You know what I mean? You can't trust Whole Foods anymore. I'm sorry. I know I could see the writing on the wall with the bread because they were lying about the bread and that shit came out last year. And I forgot what it was. They had some kind of crap that they were denying they had and they have it. So bread, and you don't congratulate yourself because you're buying an $8 loaf of bread from Whole Foods. That's not, make your own. Doesn't matter. There are recipes on YouTube where literally you don't have to wait for the bread to rise. There's no kneading bread type of recipes. There's like quick ways of making bread, and some people really need it. But I would say go out of your way to look for flour that is not from this country. You can't try. I don't care if it says non-GMO. I don't care because the wheat in this country is not even recognizable. It isn't. Look it up. Go on YouTube and go, what happened to the wheat in America? That's it. Just look up some videos and you'll see what I'm talking about. It's fucking outrageous what they've allowed. And you got motherfuckers like little fucking Bill Gates and his little wee-wee in his hands running around trying to fuck everyone. So we've got some very evil men. Peter Thiel, Sam Altman, just pure evil. Peter Thiel did a whole thing apparently. I think it was in San Francisco on Satan. I love. Did a whole thing apparently. I think it was in San Francisco on Satan. I love. He did a whole thing on Satan apparently, on the Antichrist is what he called it. A whole thing. Who the fuck are you, dude? There are better people on the planet that fucking know about Antichrist. But anyway, and they know the nature of evil. And evil is what you men are doing. So billionaires need and rely on the system to keep chugging along. This system makes their lifestyle possible. The infrastructure of the system makes that possible. And how do you fuck with people? Through food. What is the old saying? To get to a man's heart, get to his stomach, make him a good meal. What is Candace Owen just came out with a book called Make Him a Sandwich? We're always talking about food. Isn't that interesting? Sleep and food. Food and sleep. Both of which most people aren't getting enough of. So you're going to have to fucking be your own fucking boss, bitch, and get your shit together and grow your own fucking shit as much as you can. And look up how Cubans grew and grow food in these containers upside down in their balconies. Talk about resilient fucking people. And apparently they all have incredible teeth. They all have perfect fucking white teeth. So how's that possible? So do what you can. Oh, I just started following you on YouTube back in 2023. If you have made sense of my life. Oh my God, that's so sweet, Moon Queen. I wish you'd make a comment on one of my videos so I could see you and follow you back. That'd be cool. So it's not your fault. Okay? It's not your fault. You've been told that you could win equally to any. You were sold the American dream, that you had a chance. And the last chance many of us had, many of us didn't understand it. We were too busy working, too busy dealing with shit, too busy putting out fires. But the last chance you had to become a multimillionaire, to get yourself some freedom of choice, was Bitcoin. Bitcoin. And it was an underground discussion. I remember going to my art class, doing silk screening and copper plate etching and shit like that. I mean, it was a very hippy dippy. That, by the way, that class, that particular art studio in college has been removed. Why? Well, because art can be political, and quite often, when you're a good artist, it's going to be political. So it can be political, and quite often, when you're a good artist, it's going to be political. So there you go. But I remember seeing a documentary that my professor was putting on while we were working on our fucking projects on Bitcoin. It's not like I didn't know, but I didn't have the brains because I was busy dealing with shit, fires. And art was a way for me to escape. And rather than paying attention to what I was seeing, I heard it, I understood it, but I didn't ask questions. And we never discussed it in the lab. None of us said, hey, did you buy some Bitcoin? No one said that. It was just a movie just playing while we were working. Some of us with our headset on, playing our own rock and roll music, whatever the fuck we were playing to create. But some of the people who said, what the fuck? $10 for a Bitcoin? Sure. Today it's worth 114,000. I will say though, in 2022, I did buy XRP through another app because it was not allowed. It was under investigation here. And it eventually made money. Okay? And it's going to make money, XRP. So that's my little, by the way, I'm not a crypto expert. So, but that's for my 2 cents. It was worth fucking 25 cents or 35 cents in 2022. And now it's worth about $2.75 or something like that. It's gone up to at least up to $3.13. It's something you can still buy. Back in 2022, Bitcoin was worth 45,000 per coin. Now it's worth 114,000 per coin. There you go. BlackRock and those machines, these maniacal machines, have bought into the crypto market, which means there you go. They own the system. However, if you want to sit on some shit, throw in $20 a month on shit that you know is gonna fucking be point. Just sit on it for fucking years. Forget the money. Just forget it. Just throw it in there. Forget it. Don't be afraid to explore things that are just coming out. And if any of you have ever had an overdraft of $30, I'd rather you lose $30 buying a fucking stock than get a $30 overdraft fee. Do you understand? If you're going to lose money, let it be for something you tried rather than some stupid shit that bounced, right? And so I would say, just, use your instincts. Everyone I know that played with crypto back in 2021, 2022, never listened to the crypto influencers, by the way. They just went with pure fucking instinct. That's it. NFTs, there were certain NFTs going for $500,000. NFTs you wouldn't believe. Ugly fucking pixelated shit. So there will be new things coming through. People are going to create some new things. And hopefully you'll get a wind of it. And if you get wind of something you've never heard of, you may want to sit down and pay attention. That's my advice to you. And to myself, by the way. But hopefully... And if you get wind of something you've never heard of, you may want to sit down and pay attention. That's my advice to you. And to myself, by the way. But hopefully this helped. Do your best. That's all you can do. And enjoy your Sunday. Sending you much love on your journey. Namaste.